Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Hello. Can you hear me?
I can hear you perfectly, Katey.
Perfect. What's up, Julie?
So many Teams notifications, though. It's like constant beeping.
I'm still recovering from my video snafu.
Like you said, it's not a virtual event without something funky going on. So,
but I did really enjoy the student video.
It was fantastic. They're such pros.
Don't sweat it, Julie. You're fine.
What happened?
The audio was doing funky things.
Yeah.
You know how it goes with audio.
Nothing ever goes like according to plan.
Just so everyone knows, this session is being recorded. We're going to go ahead and share these recordings at a later date when we do our follow-up and make them available on the anniversary website as well, so that those of us who weren't able to be here for the whole thing or just couldn't make it will have access to these as well. So we so appreciate you all participating. And if you don't want to be seen on screen, go ahead and just hide yourself. That's fine.
We should wait a few minutes. I think it starts at 11:30, so some folks might have gone.
Yeah, let's give it a second so they can click. Definitely, there's been some link confusion. I saw a couple people launching different things, so we get a little click happy. How's it going, Grace? It's so good to see you.
Doing good. I'm
It's
good.
been a while.
Yeah, well, I started working at Akron Metro with Stephanie Fairchild, and she mentioned she was going, so here I am.
Oh, that is a good team there.
Yeah. I really enjoy working with her.
I almost included the video of you playing Jenga with Hazel, but
I saw the picture.
I saw a sneaky picture of Hazel in there, and I was like, there's our honorary comm student.
I cannot believe how big she is. Yeah, it's just crazy to me. Like, I remember when she was just like a little thing, and now that she's like, it's like a full-on teenager.
Very grown. She truly is a teenager in personality and spirit.
And mouth.
Julie, this is being recorded. She's going to see that later.
That's fine. It's nothing. I never say anything when someone's not present that I wouldn't say when they were. How about that?
That's fair. Right. I'm just going to check and make sure no one's emailing me for links. Looks like we're good there.
Katey, would you be offended if I panel hopped a little bit?
No, not at all.
I'm just curious to see how the other ones go, but I'll be back.
Absolutely.
I'm not seeing my face, but does that still mean I'm there?
You're here, Kate. I just see the background. Is your camera showing on?
Yeah.
Yes.
Is it covered?
But I can't.
There you go.
Always that very basic thing. Hello, everybody. Hello.
It's almost like a romper room. I see Kate and I see Kelly.
Lots of familiar faces. I love it. What do you think? Should we get started, and then as people come, they join in? Great. Well, welcome.
We can't forget to take a group picture. Do we want to do that now?
Yeah, I can do that right now. I took a couple during the other.
But like in the little seats.
Yeah, together mode.
All right, everybody turn on your cameras just for one little thing, and then we'll leave you alone. I promise.
Together mode.
Yay.
It is so, I'm sorry. I find this so entertaining. I know it's like cheesy, but all right, big smiles. Wonderful. All right.
Did you see us in the classroom? I still see us in the grid.
You have to change it yourself. I can't change it for you.
Well, thank you.
Yes, I have you in together mode, and I took pictures.
Oh, is that how you do that?
Yes, if you go up to the more and you go to, there's 3 options. Well, 4. gallery, large gallery, together mode, and then gallery at top.
Oh, how about them there apples?
I know, it does all kinds of stuff. It's just knowing where it is the tricky
Like
thing.
Excel.
Yeah. Yeah, just like Excel. All right. Well, let's go ahead and get started. Welcome everyone to the 45th anniversary session, Planning Events That Slay. We're very lucky to have Katey Kimpel with us today. She joins us as the Director of Special Events at the Borgata Casino, and she's going to be sharing with us some of her event planning process sort of tips and tricks. And for those of you who took my event planning class, I'm so excited for you to see some of it from a professional experience perspective, particularly for Katey, because she has over 10 years of experience working in the industry. So thank you so much for Katey for joining us today, and we're so looking forward to your presentation. We will have an opportunity for questions at the end. So as you think of things, you can either put them in the chat or hold questions to the end, because we'll make sure we have some time for those.
Well, first off, thank you guys so much for having me. The fact that I graduated from Akron like 10 years ago kind of makes me sick to like think about, I'm going to be honest, but I'm super excited to be here. Let me pull up my presentation. Actually within the last week, I've gotten promoted up to the Executive Director of Marketing. So, but I'm still with Borgata and Casino and everything of that nature. So that's why the title change is a little different. So let's get started. So the meeting agenda here is kind of a high level of what, and background. The event process, kind of like how I handle events and type of events that we see in the world, and how marketing's kind of, infused with that, and then kind of end with. So again, yeah, my name's Katey Kimpel. I graduated from the University of Akron in December of 2012. I was a public relations major with a minor in consumer marketing. I was super heavily involved with PRSSA, as well as the Pi Sigma Epsilon, which is the marketing and sales fraternity with the business school. I loved Akron. I loved everything learning, especially from Julie. Like, I think I attribute a lot of this stuff and kind of where I've got to today from great teachers such as her and anyone else that I've that's just a little bit. So
Katey, you're cutting out a little bit there.
Am I?
Yeah. Do you think it's the presentation? Do you want one of us to post it for you? And
that's fine if that works for you guys.
Because it seemed better before you started sharing.
Whatever you think.
All right, try talking now, Katey.
Hello?
Yes, much better. Okay. McKenna, do you want to share the presentation? She can stay muted and that way it won't conflict.
Sorry.
Yeah, just let me know when you need me to move to the next slide, Katey.
Absolutely. So I'll just do the postgraduate background. All right, so can everyone hear me now? It's fine? Okay, good. All right, so ever since I graduated from, question?
Sorry, no, I meant to just say, yes, I could hear you.
Oh, cool. Okay, thanks. So when I graduated from Akron, I started in the casino industry in Cleveland, Ohio. It was May of 2013. I did an internship right out of college, and then kind of did part-time with the casino, but I got a full-time role. It was May of 2013. I'm so sorry. And so I've kind of moved up the marketing and special events ladder since then. So I was in Cleveland for a period of time, and then I went and opened up a casino in Baltimore, Maryland, and that was kind of the craziest thing I've probably ever done. It's not for the faint of heart. So if anyone ever thinks about that one day, take it with a grain of salt. But I was there for about 4 years, and I've caught most of my special events and kind of marketing tenure there. I grew up in the ranks with the special events background, eventually became a marketing manager. And then I went out to Las Vegas where I was a special events kind of marketing person that was for all what I call quote unquote fun events with casinos. So it's everything with entertainment and food and beverage and anything that you could possibly think of that is actually like fun and cool to do. Not giving out toaster ovens. That's what we were doing out in Las Vegas. And then got the tap to come out as a director of marketing in our Philadelphia property with Caesars. And I was there for a little less than 3 years. And now I am at the Borgata, where I am heavily focused now in special events, direct marketing, and now our charter like plane program, which is very strange to say, but you know, who knows? That's kind of the casino world. And so that's a little bit about kind of what I've done since moving on from Akron. So we can go slide. And so being with, you know, about 9 years with doing events, here's the kind of things, I know this is kind of from a viewpoint from the casino marketing kind of lens, that we kind of do the 5 steps in order to create like an actual event that what we call. So the first one's ideation, performa, coordination, execution, and then post-forma/analytics. So we'll start now with ideation. Ideation, so everything in any kind of event world is kind of centered around a calendar. And so for us, kind of like at a resort kind of casino world, we have different things that kind of are built when we come and create this calendar. First one is kind of like property. What is going on the property at any given month? And then, so that could be something like a slot floor is getting moved, or, you know, we're adding a new outlet, or things of that nature. So you have to think of like the holistic kind of property, like what's going on. And then it breaks it down to like the hospitality, like the fun events we talked about. So, you know, all the restaurants we have, all the entertainers that come to the property, everything of that nature. What does that look like from a given month? And then you add kind of what we call the promotional bucket, which is the bread and butter of casinos. So people come, like there's plenty of options, and we can talk about Vegas to Atlantic City. There's casinos everywhere now compared to when I started about 9 years ago. And so what kind of promotions are we putting on the calendar that'll bring them in? Because everyone's going to give away, you know, the toaster ovens, do the slot tournaments, do all the fun like blackjack tournaments, etc. What are we doing on there? So it's really, you take things from like an eagle's eye look of like what that calendar looks like. That's really kind of the starting point. And then we kind of go from like the goals to achieve. From me, I always teach my team, like you have to think of what we call the customer journey, like the start into the end point of what we want them and what we want these events to look like. And so how we do that is we break out what we call event announcements, which would be kind of seen as like a run of show. And how we approach these event announcements is like, that is like your Bible. Like from the time that they walk in, what is the detailed step by step of what they should be seeing kind of come to fruition from that nature. And so, but since we're casinos, we're very heavily audited because we give out a lot of money, and, you know, things always have like some sort of financial implications to that. So we always have to generally tie any sort of event we do on property, whether it is even like a simple like happy hour, to like, you know, giving out $300,000 for a blackjack tournament, what those rules look like. So that's a little bit, that's very caveat to like this specific gaming aspect, but in the sense, you still have to kind of tie that in when you're thinking of these events. And then kind of goes down to location. So geography wise, something that'll do great in Cleveland, Ohio is not going to probably do great that's in like Las Vegas, Nevada, or Atlantic City, New Jersey. So kind of thinking of that. So obviously when it comes down to specific businesses or group functions or that, you kind of have to think about where you are and kind of who your target audience is. And then, you know, kind of might be simple to think of, but it's also the time of year. A lot of things that events happen are very cyclical. And so, you know, Super Bowl comes every year. So you generally think of like you're going to be doing some sort of party like that. And then the Christmas, the holidays, anything of that nature. So kind of when you put together a calendar of events, you put those things into perspective. And then also kind of competing interests. So for us, like, and again, this is very gaming centric, we have a lot of competitors. So then you think of like, what are they doing? What are they bringing to the table? How can we counter that? Because, you know, we're all fighting for the same share of wallet, for lack of a better term. And so how do we, again, bring people in here? But I think these kind of things could go from any sort of events. You know what I mean? So when you even think about like when we would do PRSSA, different like fun events, like everyone has different things that they're interested in. So it's just kind of like taking all that feedback and creating kind of a cohesive like here's what we're going to do, and here's the goals we're going to achieve. Because at the end of the day, you really just shouldn't be throwing things on the calendar just to throw things on the calendar. All right, the next slide. So pro forma. Does anyone know what a pro forma means? And that's okay. I didn't either, but this is like the biggest thing that when it comes to events. So basically it's a financial kind of tool where you kind of guesstimate how your event's going to do and perform. So it includes stuff like the budget and like estimated event attendance, the estimated like return of like investment based on like play that's casino based. And so what we use for that is like kind of determines our criteria of who we invite, like player criteria versus like what we add, like worth of like, again, going back to that share of wallet down to like the trips that they actually bring to the property. So that's like a little bit of more of like a casino focused thing. But I think at the end of the day, when you also tie it into events as a whole, budget really kind of drives everything you do, because you could want to throw the most lavish party, like what they say, like the champagne, like kind of things, and you have maybe like a Bud Light wallet. So it just really always like kind of determines what kind of event you are and kind of level sets your expectations. So for us, like always, you lay out what you want to do and then how much money you actually have to achieve set goals. And so once you figured all that, we go to the next slide. This is actually then comes the long process of coordination. So we did all those major steps, and this is the longest part of the process, especially if you have a lot of stakeholders in the mix. So for me, I've done a lot of stuff with celebrity chefs, and so in opening new outlets or doing, grand opening parties with them. And this is the part that really takes a lot because it is very cyclical. So you will be putting together checklists on checklists on checklists, because again, you have to make sure all your I's are dotted, T's are crossed, and that you are achieving everything, because you're going to have multiple stakeholders coming to you with all different kind of goals that they want to achieve. So what you're going to have to then do is put those in nice little presentation decks. You do a lot of those outside of work, and then come back to them, be like, hey, so for grand opening party for Gordon Ramsey's new outlet, here's how we want to do, like, this is what we want to think, like, what are your thoughts are? And generally, they're not going to like a lot of them, and you're going to have to keep going back and keep going back until you all are on the same page. So this part, I think, is I've always told my team member and stuff, like, you're going to have a little thick skin, because at the end of the day, like, especially when a lot of stakeholders are involved, that you're going to have, like, everyone has things they need to achieve, and you need to be in charge of, like, putting them all together in order to deliver this great event. And so you can use the coordination part, like with attention to detail, I think is a big thing that I found a lot of kids who have come like out of post-college, which I was super thankful from, like, learning from Julie, like attention to detail, making lists, and like the creative aspect is something that they get like very shocked of, especially when you are dealing with such large scale events, because a lot of things could go wrong, or like, especially when you're dealing with things of, third party celebrities, or you have a lot of money you're giving away. So this is the part where coordination is the biggest thing to do in order to deliver what you are promised. You have the next slide. Execution. So this is probably the most stressful part. So your event's here, you have your budget, everyone agrees, like, hey, this event's going to sound great. So now it's time to actually do said event. And so for me, this is the most stressful and the most rewarding part of your job, because anything that could go wrong, I promise you, it will. I don't think I've done hundreds of events at this point, and I don't think I could ever like look back and be like, you know what, everything worked out according to plan. And I had no roadblocks. I didn't have to make any decisions or pivot or do anything else, because it was perfect. So that said, I think a big thing that I always advocate to folks when they are getting into events and want to do this, like, you have to be able to be very solution oriented, because you are going to be approached with many, many roadblocks, many, many problems, and you have to be able to pivot and move forward, because if not, the event industry might not be for you, because this is like events that are high stress. A lot of things, like, the stakeholders that we've like previously spoke about, they're all going to be here, and like this is the thing that you promised them, and like everything has to go according to plan. So for me, but that's the best part too. So I think you see everything, like all the hard work, the sweat, the tears come together, and you see like all your hard work being done. So I think a lot of times when I have coordinators, anyone who start for me, like I always try to like make a note for their special, like their first event, being like, all that stress, all the things, like look what you did. This is all because of you. But also wear comfortable shoes next time because you will be walking a lot. And so yeah, so the execution part of the events are, the fourth part. So then after all is done, the party's over, we move on to the next step, which is called post forma. So pro forma is like how you think you anticipate the event to do. Post is what did you actually do? So then it's actually then, filling in expenses, kind of pulling analytics from the event. You gather stakeholder feedback, and then put all your notes in a folder. Because what's very crazy is when things are cyclical each year, that you're like, well, what did we do last year? Like, what happened? Did we like what we did? I can't remember. So I promise for any sort of event that you do, please take pictures. Also, like have a little group recap, and then gather everyone's notes. It can all be constructive, and things can always do better next year. So make sure just to gather that, because that is going to be super incredible to go when you do the same event next year or something similar, that like maybe we're going to need more wristbands, or maybe technology, we probably should be checking certain things before we open the doors. So that's pretty much, I would say, like the 5 big things approaching any events, because I think they really can be applicable towards any sort of event you're doing. You're going to need to figure out what you want to do. You're going to need to figure out what money you have. You're going to figure out, okay, like let's actually put this event set together. The event's going to happen, so you're going to have to do it. And then finally, like, what did we learn and what can we move forward with? Next slide. So here's the kind of events. I just kind of want to give you guys a little bit of a high overview of like what you see in casinos, because a lot of times when people think about them, they're like, oh, slot machines, oh, table games, oh, this. But there's so much more that I'm super thankful that we've got, like you get exposure to, that you really would have no idea about. So we'll go again what we call the fun events, because again, those are the ones that are the most exciting. So you deal a lot with third-party vendors, and they're the most that celebrity chefs are very, picky. And they're the ones that you deal a lot with different, like, sort of like retail, open the public, fun things, very hospitality, food and beverage driven. So I've been fortunate enough to like do many grand openings. So if you see like Gordon Ramsey, his first East Coast like steak restaurant, we were able to open that up. Giada De Laurentiis, when her first East Coast restaurant. Lisa Vanderpump, who knew that she was a celebrity chef? I'm just kidding. We opened up Vanderpump Cocktail Garden out in Las Vegas with her, and a bunch of others. So when you come in events with certain folks, like third-party stakeholders are like the biggest thing, and you just have to be able to, gather feedback and kind of, make what their visions are happen. And then we do fun things with food and beverage activations that are around like big high scale events such as the Super Bowl and March Madness. And then when I was with Caesars, we did a lot of partnerships. We were the first one with the NFL, and then we did different things with MLB, NBA, etc. So you do get a lot of fun like sports stuff that you really wouldn't think of, like you would have that like opportunity to do so. And then entertainment, my girl Britney Spears, we were there for her Piece of Me tour out in Vegas, so that was super great. And then you do different stuff too with like Celine Dion, Backstreet Boys, Chippendales, you name it, the spectrum's there. But then what we call like the bread and butter of like what actually makes money for casinos are what we call promotional events. And so we do giveaways. So I have given out countless amount of egg cookers. I would say probably around 200,000 of them. If I had to put a ballpark, it's probably more. I'm giving them out next month as well. That we do weekly gift giveaways of like thousands of product. Again, you name it, that we give those out: boats, cars, money, trips. So those are the things that like core inherent like gamblers, that's the reason they go to casinos, because they want to win. They love that excitement of like winning something. So that's kind of a cool part of the job, is just like people like love that thrill, and it's just like you get to like change someone's life in that aspect once you give them a big giveaway. And then you do fun things like tournaments, like slot tournaments, even though they're the bane of my existence and I really, really hate them. So if you ever go to one, just know you'll think of me because I hate them. And then table games tournaments, those are actually fine. But like slot tournaments, I'm telling you, if any of you ever are attending one, you'll always think of me because you'll be like, this is why she hates them. And then dinners, like we will do like New Year's Eve is what we call our quote unquote Super Bowl for casinos because it is the one time of year that like everyone comes together and it's just like it's madness around the casino floor. So that's always a a fun treat for everyone, but it's a fun event. So those are some other things that we have to do, but that's kind of like a high glimpse overview. I always tell kids coming out of college or looking for stuff like don't negate casinos because I don't know any other industry that gives you the opportunity to have entertainment, food and beverage, hospitality, and event planning all in one roof. So I love what I do. I think it's fun most of the time. And it's just a cool career that I think that if people are looking for something for events that they should really like put that into perspective. And then some marketing levers. So we approach everything kind of looking at like what marketing do you include for these events? Like, do you just like throw together a slot tournament and hope people show up? No. But so these are the different kind of things we do that are all tied in. So we obviously do direct marketing. So it would be stuff that we mail people physical offers and different event announcements, all this kind of stuff, nice and packaged. And we do that same thing with email marketing as well. And then we have relationship marketing. So I think a lot of things that come down with casinos is that they have a division of casino marketing that's called like hosts. And so hosts are basically like salespeople. They have a book of players. And so many of events that we do are based on like telemarketed, like they're the ones picking up the phone, calling this person, be like, hey, we're giving out iPhones tonight. Do you want to come to said event? And so a lot of this, like casinos are successful based on the people who work there and the like the hosts that drive them to the property. So it's very relationship marketing in the sense of like also when it comes down to service because you want to go somewhere, we're going to get like a good experience, things are thought well, no hiccups and things in that nature. And then now we go to social media. So for us, so I've oversaw social media for many years now. And so we do a lot of paid social media and then we do a lot of organic social media. It's very interesting to think of casinos. The biggest thing that we see in terms of like event success, it always comes down to those promotional gift giveaways. Sense of winning is like the biggest thing for casinos. Like casino gamblers, they want to feel like they're going to win. And that's why they want to come to these events because they're like, oh, it's going to go great. This is the place I want to be. Look at how many people win there. So that's generally how we use social media to kind of advertise that. And then, we go down to search SEO and website. You got to keep everything up to date with what's going on with your events, especially when you are very heavily regulated, because people will find stuff on websites, send it to gaming regulators, and you could get fined. And no one wants to do that. I've seen it happen many times. And then it comes down to advertising in-house. So for us, it'd be collateral that we place around the property of the different events that we're doing and different things on digital screens. So it could be static, it could be digital, everything of that nature. And then we do out of home a lot. So then we'd be purchasing billboards and different other guerrilla marketing techniques that we have out there. Like we wrap buses and, park benches, everything you name it. So like those are the different things of kind of like how we get our marketing and event like information out into the public in order for them to come back and, participate in these events. And I think that's it for me. That's kind of, again, the whole overview. I don't know if anyone has any questions. Again, a lot of fun things we've done in the career and like event-wise. So if anyone has specific like event, things that they want to hear from me, like I'd love to talk about it.
Thank you so much, Katey. I find that all so interesting. I do have a bit of a background of event planning, but mine was trade show oriented. So probably the other side of Vegas that's not as cool and sexy as what you do.
It's so interesting because people will be like, oh, do things. And I'm like, I just want you to all remember egg cookers. I've given out so many of these like crock pots, egg cookers. Like I'm pretty sure half the appliances in my house are from gift giveaways.
I will tell you, probably half of those have gone to my father-in-law. He is a big giveaway guy. He
Oh, they
actually
love 'em.
won a cash award at the Vanderpump Cocktails opening. So
Stop.
he's
Yeah,
in
it's
and
so
around
cool.
your whole thing. They live in Mesquite, so they're right out there all the time. But that's
I,
so
I would
funny.
say, and everyone always says like Gordon Ramsay must be the meanest person you've dealt with. Like literally the nicest of all the celebrity chefs, bar none.
Who's Gordon?
So it's Gordon.
Can you tell us who the meanest was?
I would say two of them are a little more particular with what they are looking for their stuff. I had one celebrity chef when we were opening up an outlet come up to me. He's like, "So how are you going to market my space?" And you're like, "Well," and it was just out of nowhere, and you just had to be like, well," and just like kind of make something up, unfortunately. But yeah, so I think you deal with a lot of really interesting people in this in casino worlds and all that stuff, which I always like. I'm a very big advocate for folks that like want to get into events. Like this could be a good avenue to at least try.
Well, let's go ahead and open up to questions. Julie, did you have a question?
I want to ask a question. What is the biggest disaster you've ever had at an event, and how did you respond?
Ooh, okay. So this is easy. So we were opening up Horseshoe Baltimore, which is the casino I opened up in Maryland. And our first big kind of like trademark promotion was something that was called Suitcase Man. And so people were earning all month long for it. And they were giving out like $50,000 in like cash prizes, as well as like 50 spins on a $500 denom machine. So that's like a super, super, super like, if you think of like slot machines, like that is the biggest you really can like put into the machine. Anywho, a snowstorm happened, and not like just like any snowstorm happened. It was like the mecca of snowstorms. Like people were like, it was like the one, I don't know if people remember a few years ago, it was just one of those big polar vortexes. It had like 3 feet of snow, and it was the night of the finale. And it was crazy. So people are still trying to come in. People are calling us, being like, "I can't make it, but I have all these entries into this event. Like, how am I supposed to do this?" Like, just going nuts. And rightfully so. And then our computer system went down because of the weather. Like something happened as well, and it was taking like 10 minutes for one transaction, and like people were still, God willing, coming into this event, like this casino. And so on top of no, we were having technical issues, and it was so eventually like we got the technical issues kind of under wraps, because you do these things called hourly drawings to get people that become finalists into whatever. And then we had models we hired to be like the suitcase men. None of them showed up. So then we had to go and find random people, casino employees, that had to go on stage of all things. And everyone hates stage fright, like, to do this event. And then we ended up deciding like an hour before that we were gonna do, whoever came, like we're gonna have this finale, but we're gonna have to email everyone, and we're gonna do another finale event a month later, so that way we can make it right for the guest, but then still kind of have something for those who actually like made it into the building. And so huge financial implications. I mean, that's a lot of money that you put through it. But at the end of the day, you have to do what's right for the guest and everything of that nature. But that's when you kind of come up with the solution-oriented mindset. Like you have to figure out, okay, what's the biggest thing you have to tackle? One, technology. You got to get that under control, because if people are activating into these drawings, you have to do the drawings. So how do you figure those out? And then two, what do we have here? Like, what are the problems? Like, we're getting a lot of angry people calling in, and we don't want that, like, have that bad reputation of like, oh, well, they don't care about people's safety. So we're going to have to then remedy that. And then three, I think we ended up at the end of the night, like our top tier players got an extra like free play bonus of like, thanks for being here. But yeah, so it's just always kind of tucking and rolling, and figuring out what we can do to make it right for folks, and honestly execute the event according to plan, because we kind of had to anyways, because we told the gaming commission we would. Yeah, so it's fun. And then another time, my coordinator gave away an extra car. That was fun. And those were another thing. So this is why we have processes and procedures. So allegedly, they wrote down. Usually we do like different like reveals, like for finale people, if we're giving out cars, and we were supposed to give out 5 cars for the 4th of July weekend. No, it was supposed to be 4 cars for the 4th of July weekend. And somehow an extra winning slip got in there. So we gave out 5 cars for the 4th of July weekend. And that was also, again, you have to be like, well, we have to, could we take one back from someone saying they didn't win? We're only supposed to give 4. Nope, you gotta give out the 5th car. And then, so that was a fun one, but that comes down to then learning where in the coordination process was there a breakdown, and what are we going to do to remedy that moving forward, so that, you know, we don't make a $60,000 mistake, because that's what it ended up being. I could go on for days for these kind of fun stuff.
Only you would say that something like that's fun. I'm having pure anxiety just thinking.
I know it's horrible. Like, I just like, so now like you get like a little like antsy and like eye twitchy when it comes to like certain events, because you like have a little PTSD of just like, did everyone double, triple check the envelopes?
Yeah. Do you find it's worse now that you know what type of problems to anticipate? Like, does that stay in your head with you, or do you feel that you
100%.
actually learn from them and it's makes you more prepared to handle them?
Oh no, that anxiety will never go away with these events. So like, I love doing the fun events. Like, it would be easy, give me a grand opening all day. But then like car giveaways, I'm like sweating in the background. I told them like I can't be up there when they pull the names because I get too nervous.
It's like total PTSD.
Yes.
You talked a bit about in the execution section, you know, the importance of wearing comfortable shoes and how it can be such a long and arduous process. Can you talk a bit about what your hours look like? Because obviously these are not going to be standard business working hours.
Yes, so that's a good point. So for us, like, we are 24/7, 365-day operation, right? Like, we're not off on Christmas, we're not off on any holiday like that you think of. Like, we have to be there. And so for us, like, so typically our events will run to be like 8 hours. And so you have to be there enough time to get your staff ready, to get things prepped, get things open, and we try to open things early. So that can be a very long day, and those happen on like a weekly cadence. So when people think about events, like, I tell them like, it's not a 9 to 5 Monday through Friday like bankers hours. Like, you will be here every Saturday night, and like your friends will be out and like having fun, and you know, you have to really kind of like what you do, because even for, say, we had a Halloween party at Borgata a few weeks ago, and we would all be there at noon, and the party ended at 9 o'clock to make sure things were set up and things are good. You know, it's just, they are long and they are, you know, wearing. But yeah, again, please just wear comfortable shoes, because I've seen too many poor girls crying and finding band-aids and stuff because they think they can wear heels all day long, and that's typically, you know, they're not your friends at the end of the night.
What kind of team do you work with to put these events together?
So right now I have a manager of special events, and I have 2 coordinators and 1 supervisor, and about 35 on-call staff that help execute. And that's pretty typical. I've seen that in Cleveland and Philadelphia, as well as Baltimore. So typically for us, like, you have a big staff that helps like execute these events, but you have, you know, a group of young professionals who want to learn about the stuff, be coordinator, supervisors, and kind of want to grow on that kind of side of the field.
Wonderful. Well, I do have a question from the chat for you. What is something you feel you learned here at UA that you think really stayed with you and was helpful in your current career?
Pubs. Because I think,
Publications?
yeah, because I'm not even to say it because Julie's here, but I have to look at artwork all the time, and like the things like the typography to like the design and everything. I use that all the time when it comes to like looking at you know, the design things. Does it look too wordy? Is it too this? Is it that? Like, are people going to, when they drive down the highway, like, how many words do we have up there? And, you know, I think a lot of design stuff, I'm very fortunate that we've gotten that exposure. And then also, anything to do, I don't remember who taught the class, but news writing, and just like writing things down and being very concise has been a big thing for me. It's been incredibly helpful, but I really loved everything I learned from comms class. But I think, you know, being in PRSSA and like learning the events and doing things of that nature, I think also like was super beneficial for me.
And so for your design work, is that mostly in-house, or do you do a little bit of both, working with agencies and in-house production?
So I have done both. So right now I have everyone is in-house, which is incredible. It's so much easier. You can kind of be like, I like this. But in Caesars, it was very templated. So there was pretty much like a standard brand guideline where it's like, here's what your gift giveaway poster looks like, no matter whatever. And here's what your New Year's Eve is going to be look like. And you just really have no choice. And you're like, sounds good. But now, like, so for this year, we're doing like a French Quarter New Year. And so we got to like really get creative with the design elements and everything of that nature. So that's been like fun to actually like be like, okay, we're giving out iPhones today. So like let's make the invitation look like it is an iPhone and like all this other fun stuff. So I think that's been a super fun thing to be involved in.
So a little bit more of that creative liberty then.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Which
that's
very nice.
definitely,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely more appealing. I have another question from the chat. How available do you think jobs are in the casino or promotions fields?
I think so when I started it, like casinos like 9 years ago, I don't think there was as many as there are, but they are popping up in every jurisdiction. So I think if this sounds interesting to you, like madness, like then definitely you should look into it because they are a lot that is opening, and so I think it's pretty plentiful, and it is a good career and field that if you love events and passionate for that, that it would be good. You can ask me anytime.
I do know that obviously a lot of states are approving or working on initiatives to bring gambling to their states. So I wonder too if
Mhm.
that'll grow the field as well.
Especially with sports gambling too, right? So
Right.
that's a huge thing in which we call like it is what I call like approachable gambling,
Yeah.
right? So some people are gonna be like, I'm not going up to a craps pit and just like hoping for the best and like this because I don't do that. I don't really even gamble that much. So for me, like I think sports gaming is very interesting and especially for folks like and that's really expanding as well. So that's also something to be to look into.
Sure. When it comes to working in a casino, you mentioned that you don't really like gambling. Uh, What are some things about it that you find have changed how you approach a casino personally?
So I think like it's fun. So like for me, like I understand why people like it. So for me, like I get it, but I like the hospitality side of casinos. That's always been my thing. Like if I go to a casino, I go with a specific amount of money. If I lose it, fine. But if I double it, you gotta walk away. You got to have like from like that specific like gambling part. But like there's nothing better than going and just like the different restaurants and entertainment and just like having fun and that's the kind of environment like I've always like loved to do. And like these events generally are pretty fun, minus when you egg cookers, but in slot tournaments. But I have one this weekend and I'm not looking forward to it.
I have another question from the chat. It says,
Yeah.
how are you able to successfully manage your time? Because it seems like you have a lot to consider. I know I have many events to attend every week and I'm not putting them on, but I struggle just to keep up with those. So how do you keep everything on track and manage all of your time accordingly?
I think it comes down to prioritization, right? So I think for me, it's just especially from like a team aspect, if we're actually talking about like events we're executing, it's just kind of putting aces in places, like I like to say. And so once we assign events to people, and so you have to be like, all right, so this person's doing this person's doing that, and you kind of go back and forth. From like a personal aspect, again, it's just like you have to make sure you do what you is needed for your job and your business and like your things to be successful, but also make sure you have a life too outside of work and attend fun events that you have with your friends and anything of that nature. But from in terms of like actually event planning, it is a team aspect. I always tell them like it's one team, one goal. It's a phrase we always say. So we have to just figure it out. And then got to know that they have to trust they do what they're supposed to do.
I love the aces and places plus the play on words with
Yeah. Oh,
the,
yeah.
the casino.
With the casino, yeah.
I know in your presentation you mentioned the use of checklists. Do you find that that factors into your ability for time management, and how do you share those in a team setting?
So for us, yes. So we've made standard like checklists, which is easy to like help train folks when they're coming into this environment, especially if they've never done anything like this before. It is just like quick reminders of things you really need to do and get done. And we really break it out like event specific because, you're going to have to order like linens and tables and chairs and entertainment, and is then we have ops plans that we have also checklists of like using stakeholders on property to attend things. So it's just there's so much that needs to be done with an event that you really have to like break it down individually, and it can be tedious to just check things off, but like unfortunately when you get too comfortable, that's when things slide. Like, so that's why for us, like, it is important from the jump that you have to hit checklists and like make sure things are done. Because for me also, like I tell my team, like especially like the night before, say it's like a New Year's Eve party, make sure everything you humanly can do is done the day before, because the day of execution is not the time to wonder where wristbands are. It's not the time to double check our computer setup and do they have receipt paper and is everything like set up in that sense. So that's why it does come down to like keeping you on check and then also making sure like this event will go accurately.
And I think related to that, our question in the chat says, how do you ensure that your team works together effectively?
So that's a big thing, is learning leadership and like management of folks, because it is very, I'm sure everyone can say it, like managing grown-ups can be the most frustrating thing ever. But so for me, it is, delegation, accountability, and then also, development. So you have to make sure like like obviously when you're at work, we got a job to do. You don't have to be best friends outside of work, but like you have to like come together as one team, one goal, because we have things we got to get accomplished. And so kind of taking egos aside and just like getting what things needs to be accomplished done.
A lot of managing personality, I'm sure.
It is, especially because you have like all walks of life, right? Like everyone
Right.
different backgrounds and different age groups and everything, and just kind of like one common thing we have together is like we are here to do a job and we got to do it well. So
Really interesting. I have a great question in the chat. It says, is there data analysis or market research that's compiled to help segment out the casino audiences so that you can create unique communications to those groups? If so, what kind of analyses are used?
Oh, yes, there's definitely like the amount of data, unfortunately, like that casinos we gather, it always gathers down by player worth, like I've talked about, like how much they spend, because typically when you have a card, your play gets tracked and we kind of understand a little bit about you, right? And like what your game preference is, what your kind of your bet is, all those different things from like an actual gaming standpoint. But when you do sign up for a card, also we get your where you live, how old you are, and like your kind of your age, sex, whatever. So we understand again a little bit about your location and things of that nature. And so we use all of that in terms of kind of doing market research for the different things that we do. And I think a lot of things that we use comes down to player worth and player trips, right? So there's different segments that we will want to attract folks, right? So like retail folks will be something they're like not big on gambling, but we want to make sure that we target them for the different like food and beverage offers we have going on, different entertainment shows we have going on, things of that nature. And then we have folks that are high worth that we want to be like, here's this iPhone event we're doing tonight, here's this that we're doing. But we have an incredible amount of data analytics of all of our players. We come in and we use those every day, I would say, to make decisions. And it's something we look at frequently, which is why I say pro forma and post forma are like two things for me that I use for event planning process, because you want to make sure your event's going to be profitable, because if you are underwater, you're not going to probably do it again. And then two, what actually happened from said event and did these kind of line up? So, because you're throwing a lot of money at things and you have to make sure that you are making the right decisions for these specific events with casinos.
So would you say some of the events are even specially targeted to those more high worth, or I guess what we think of on the outside is like high rollers type demographics?
Yes. And so looping back, and again, I don't know if this is like, so we have what we call hosts. I know I briefly talked about them with like relationship marketing. So hosts have a specific book of players that are worth a certain amount of like worth. And so they're the ones who like manage, you know, all this. And so we'll do specific events targeted towards them and what their players want. So like for instance, tonight at work, I'm giving out iPhone 14 Pros Maxes for like a period of time for certain table games players. So it's like it's very interesting, like that we have like it gets broken up then by game type, like tables and then slots. And then for next week, I have a high level slot tournament that'll be, you know, like a $60,000 event that we're giving out for that too. So it just, you have to make those decisions based on like different works. But then we do weekly continuity gifts, which will be like the different, like the egg cookers, this. And that's for like anyone. So it's definitely all of that comes into play of what we do. That's a long-winded answer. I'm so sorry.
No, that's such a good answer. It's so fascinating the way that you can use the different audience details you have to break them out for your different events.
Yes.
A follow-up to that about the audiences, have you ever miscommunicated a message to the wrong group? And if so, how'd you rectify that situation?
That happens more often than you think. So then like, so with, you know, things happen, especially with direct marketing where, you know, usually you take like the players' numbers and it's a, you know, very like tech thing. So send things out and sometimes people can't that were included in said list actually didn't qualify for the event. But for me, I've always been a big firm believer of like, hey, if you got the offer, we gotta give it to you no matter like, you know, what. So if it's our bad, like we gotta take it on the chin. We gotta take that expense. We call it a day. But then, you know, there's other things when we talk about advertising on property. So like we collateral and disclaimers like are these people's Bibles. I remember when I opened up Baltimore, we had a gift giveaway and we had a disclaimer that was incorrect on one of the advertising collaterals. And I had someone on the floor taking pictures of it and sending it to the gaming commission. And, you know, then you get in trouble for that. So like that's why like you have to be very careful of things that you do in that because there could be real like implications if you know put something wrong that's out there, which is crazy.
Yeah, a lot of implications when you have a regulatory body that you also answer to. Can you talk a bit about what that's like working with when you're creating communications and how you make sure that everything's falling in line with what their standards are?
So you really have to have a good relationship with the gaming commission and what we call a controller on property that kind of, you know, manages that relationship so that a lot of times when we're creating like the ideation process, we could be like, hey, this is what we want to do. Want to make sure like there's no sort of hiccups that we have like that'll be coming down that we wouldn't know about, right? So that we kind of have to double check everything's good. New Jersey is the most interesting jurisdiction I've worked in because like in Vegas, you can do whatever you want. Like they don't care, like at all. Like you, whatever you want to do, like have a great time. But like Jersey, like we have to for any event we have to submit a fire permit, and it costs $300 for any event. It doesn't matter what kind of event it is. You have to have, and like the fire commander comes to the casino for any event, and we have events like multiple a week, like, and so it is very strange. They're very very particular here. And then you go down to Baltimore, and so you're not allowed to give out alcohol there, and alcohol is not comped, but it can be comped in New Jersey and Pennsylvania, as well as, you know, Vegas. So it's all different jurisdictions. You kind of have to like learn and be very flexible. I always tell people when they're here, like, and are in casinos, you have to bend when you can, but like snap when you need to. But you have to be delicate because there is something that to it all, right? So you want to make sure to have good relationships because at the end of the day, that's what gets you where you need to go.
Is the bend and snap Legally Blonde
Yeah.
reference?
Yeah.
Because I like it.
Right.
Bend and snap for sure.
Yeah.
We are closing in on the last 8 minutes of this session, so I would love to open it up for additional questions. Like I said, you can either put them in the chat or you're welcome to unmute yourself and speak. Looks like Latasha, you have a question. Go ahead.
Hey, Katie, how are you?
How are you?
I'm doing okay. I cannot believe it's been 10 years since we graduated. That's crazy,
I
right?
cannot believe it at all. It makes me sick.
I know. I just wondered how you navigated the pandemic, and I'm so sorry to bring up the pandemic. I know people are tired of it, but I just wanted to know how you navigated that in your career and what kind of lessons you learned from that.
So for us, like we navigated, obviously we shut down for a period of time. And I think it was over 3 months. I was in a Philadelphia property at the time. And it changed everything, right? Like we couldn't, like would have thousands of people coming to events. And we had to just, pivot and kind of move forward because you have to, think again, what's best for the safety and health of employees. And then also just trying to, do your job at the best time. So I think Caesars did a great job, and I think MGM did a great job as well from what I've seen. But in the Caesars world, when I was with them, like we would make sure like the social distancing, we like the hand sanitizers, the hand washing stations on the floor. And then we also really just pivoted our calendars. So we didn't have like the mass amount of people in rooms for things that we didn't want to do. And I remember on the floor, they closed off every other game, and then we had to have distancing on tables. So I think, you have to pivot and do what's best overall. And I think that to their best of the ability, that's what they did. So it was good to be a part of that, and, glad that we're on the other side of that ish now,
Yeah, I think when we talk about the pandemic, I think event planning, you almost have to talk about it because it was such an affected industry because we're talking about something that revolves around people getting together. So
Right.
it's just so strange. And I agree. It's so nice to be on hopefully the other side of that. We've already started talking about what to do for our 50th. And so of course we're hoping at that point in time, it'll be very safe to be in person and gather. So no, I so appreciate that.
You gotta just do what you gotta do, you know what I mean? So I think it's just like something where you're just like, hey, we gotta make it a good, safe, fun experience the best we can. So I think people, and just like know like that's the end goal of it all.
Well, and talk about something that's great to bring up in future interviews.
Right.
And say, here's how we navigated a situation like this. That's just what I keep telling my students. I'm like, at least you're going to have really good stories for how you're flexible and adaptable.
That's it. That's all you got to do.
Silver lining somewhere. We have 5 minutes remaining. Any additional questions for Katey? Well, I do want to say, oh, go ahead, Kelly.
I just wondered, I love the out of house guerrilla marketing.
Mm-hmm.
I wondered if you could speak more to the strategies, like what? Yeah, some wild.
So for us, a big thing that we did. So a good fun example when Gordon Ramsay was opening his restaurant, we did different like takeovers around the city of Baltimore at the time, kind of announcing it and doing different fun things with the Baltimore Ravens that would help like in the stadium with all this fun stuff too, just kind of like teasing it. And then, eventually announcing it when it was live. So with him and no one knows football, but I don't know if they do or not, but if you're a big Ravens fan. So Jonathan Ogden was one of like the main players. He's super involved with the Baltimore community and been a great partner. And so we would do like different, like fun, like teaser fun, like videos with the two of them that we would use on social and the different restaurant, like the restaurant specifically, and then around property because he was the person that you wanted to advocate for this restaurant in the city because of his notoriety and like how beloved he is. So those were kind of fun things. So you think of it the strategy, again, it comes down to like the background, like where are you from geography, like what matters to these people and like how can we get the message out there in like a good, like fun manner. That's just different.
Thank you so much. That was fabulous.
Yeah.
Which is so fun. I love all of those like fun, quirky, different types of marketing things you don't normally see, right? So
and I'll tell people all the time, the nicest person you'll ever meet is Gordon Ramsay.
I I am so fascinated by that because he's so mean on TV.
He's so nice, and his like executive chef, Christina Wilson, also a delight. Like they are bar none, like the best partners I've ever dealt with.
I love that.
Yeah.
Now I'm never gonna believe him when I see him on TV.
I know, it's just all a facade. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Well, any last questions before I send the link to our closing ceremony?
I just want to say thank you, Katey, from me, because you're my, like I call them, my PR babies. But they're all like surpassing me, which I guess is good, right? That's a good sign.
Never could surpass you.
No, I think so. But I'm so delighted that you're doing so well, and I'm sure I'll be reaching out. I was thinking like, oh, I should ask her how the PRSSA should promote their events, like what media mix you think, but I think we'll save that maybe for another visit.
Yeah, anytime. You guys have my look me up on LinkedIn or whatever, Facebook and stuff. I'm not really on there too much, but anyways, the LinkedIn I'm on there, so let me know if you need anything. I'm happy to always help anyone, especially from Akron. I hold dear to my heart.
That's so wonderful. Thank you so much, Katey. I so appreciated this talk. I think it was so fascinating, and a huge thank you to everyone who attended and asked great questions. I just find that this industry is ever changing, ever growing. And I think you did such a great job of capturing how dynamic it is. And we so appreciate you being here, and watch for the recording of this. If you want to come back and revisit some of Katey's presentation, we will be sharing all of the recordings from today in a follow-up communication. So thank you again.
Thank you guys so much.
I will share the link to the closing ceremony. I'm going to send it right now.
Did you get a picture? Did you get a screenshot of everybody?
I did, yes.
Okay. I've been in and out of the different rooms.
Yes, hi, Heather. You're like a voice coming in. I was like, where's that coming from?
Sorry.
Yes, the link to the closing is in the chat, so that will move to our final ceremony there. And thank you again. And
thank you guys.
I'll see you at the closing, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you so much.